Hello and welcome back to Women's Football Talk, the YouTube channel that brings you all the latest news and stories from around the world of women's football. Now before we get into today's video, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell so you never miss a video of ours. So what a weekend we've just had in the WSL, goals galore, and obviously we had the two big games at the top of the table between Chelsea and Manchester City and Arsenal versus Manchester United. So we'll start on Friday night where we saw Manchester City take on Chelsea at Kingsmeadow, and it was Gareth Taylor's side that ran out 1-0 victors thanks to an early goal from Khadija Shaw. It's an absolutely big victory for Manchester City. It's the first time they've beaten Chelsea at home for a long time, and obviously in terms of the race for the WSL title, it means that the two sides are now level on points and goal difference, but it's the fact that Chelsea have scored more goals that is what is separating the two sides at this minute in time. And it was a really good game. Manchester City, they seemed to know how they wanted to attack Chelsea when they had the ball. Jess Park playing in some lovely passes through to Khadija Shaw through the early stages, and that's the link up that got Manchester City's goal in that one. And Chelsea themselves, they had opportunities, but in the final third they weren't as clinical as they needed to be. Erin Cuthbert had many chances, again like she had in the Chelsea's FA Cup game against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup the week before, but she was unable to convert any of her chances. And I think one thing that really struggled with Chelsea was having Lauren James out wide. She really seemed to struggle and get going much in that game at all, compared to that you saw like Khadija Shaw, Myra Ramirez, her own teammate, even was more involved. But Chelsea just didn't look the same at times. They had some good chances, but in the first half, and they really took to Manchester City, and I was thinking they are going to get that equaliser, but they weren't able to do so. And then in the second half, Manchester City's defence, especially Alex Greenwood, stepped up, looked absolutely resolute at the back and was rock solid throughout the whole second half. And then as well, Kiara Keating towards the end pulling off some big saves to deny Chelsea getting any sort of late equaliser. And I think overall Manchester City deserved the win. I think they were slightly better of the two sides, and looking forward now to how the title race comes for the rest of the season between those two sides. Obviously being level on points, you'll expect a race right down to the wire of the last day of the season. But overall, big win for Manchester City in context of everything, but disappointing result for Emma Hayes' side. They'll know they'll have to be better after the international break, and it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, you'd expect Chelsea to bounce back and not have any issues with coming back from a defeat, but it is definitely something they need to look on and make sure it doesn't happen again, because Manchester City looking absolutely formidable this season, and with how little goals they've conceded throughout the WSL this season, it's going to be very hard for Chelsea to slip up again and still be champions unless Manchester City themselves slip up, because as it stands at the minute, Manchester City have only conceded the 8 goals whilst Chelsea have conceded 13 goals, but it is the goal score that is giving Chelsea the slight edge at this minute in time. Now on to Saturday's game between Manchester United and Arsenal from the Emirates Stadium, and it is a WSL record fan attendance. Over 60,160 fans were in attendance at the Emirates Stadium, and it was a fantastic weekend for United side. 3-1 winners, an early own goal from JC Ferreira, then goals from Chloe Lacasse and a penalty from Kim Little put Arsenal 3-0 up at half time. It was a really poor first half for Manchester United. They looked all out of shape and just at 6s and 7s like they hadn't played with each other before, and it just wasn't the Manchester United we had been accustomed to seeing, even not just in the WSL but in games previously against Arsenal. United usually do a lot better than what they did at the weekend, but Arsenal, everything they wanted to do they were able to do with ease. And I do think I mentioned it in the preview on Friday, whether having Stina Blackstenius and Chloe Lacasse in from the start would help United side out, and it did. Obviously that saw Alessia Russo come off the bench, obviously Vivian Miedemar, who had been in and around the starting lineup as well, Caitlin Ford as well. So it was a bit of the changes that really helped United side out. And yeah, total domination from minute 1 to minute 90. There was some chances for United as the game wore on, but not many, and Arsenal thoroughly deserve this. So big win for Arsenal in terms of the context of trying to get into the Champions League for next season and keeping the race on for the title as well, because now they're only 3 points behind Chelsea and Manchester City. So it isn't still over for Arsenal in that sense, but obviously the goal difference and which is 10 goals between the top two and Arsenal, so that's a lot of a gap to ask Arsenal to bridge. And then obviously having Chelsea and Manchester City drop more points is obviously another hard question. For Manchester United, this really is a big blow in terms of having any chances of getting back into Champions League football now. 7 points behind Arsenal, and yeah, really poor showing from Mark Skinner's side. They got a late consolation goal in the 96th minute through Lucia Garcia, but other than that, it was one-way traffic for Arsenal throughout the whole of this game, and United will be really disappointed to have lost such a big game in such a poor performance. So looking forward to seeing how they bounce back after this international break. A look now at the rest of the results elsewhere in the WSL, and it was a big win for Leicester City. They managed to beat Bristol City by 5 goals to 2. Really solid performance from Foxes, and that win sees them move up to 7th place. And then elsewhere we saw Aston Villa beat Tottenham by 2 goals to 1, Everton beat West Ham United 2-0, and Liverpool beat Brighton and Hove Albion by 1 goal to 0. So how does the WSL table look heading into this international break now? It's Chelsea top, Manchester City second, Arsenal third, Man United 4th, Liverpool 5th, Tottenham, Leicester, Aston Villa, Everton, West Ham, Brighton and Bristol City bringing up the rear of the table. But like I said, we are now on to the international break, so it is the UEFA Women's Nations League finals. We have obviously coming up on Friday, Spain versus the Netherlands and France versus Germany, and then obviously the final will be a few days later, with the 2 winners of that guaranteeing a place at the 2 finalists, unless it's France, will be at the Olympics later on this year. And obviously if it is France that end up getting to the final or winning it, then that will go to the winner of the 3rd place tournament. So that is it for this week. We'll be back in a few days' time. If there's any big breaking news, make sure you follow us on all social media for all the latest news and stories. So that's on Twitter or X, and on Instagram just search Women's Football Talk on both and it should come up. And make sure you are subscribed to us wherever you get your podcasts from, and we will have a podcast out later on this week looking back at the WSL weekend in full, and obviously all the talking points from around the world of women's football. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this channel with the post notification bell turned on, and we'll see you soon.